And I'm going to share my screen and switch to the slideshow. And we're going to look at establishing suits by ruffing. And it's a very valuable technique when you're playing in a trump suit and you have another side suit, that very often, if you can set up that suit by ruffing one or more times, you can generate a lot of tricks. And you need to think about a number of things when you're doing that. One thing is you need to think about the possible distribution in that suit. You need to think about how many times you are going to need to ruff likely in order to set up that suit. And unless you're able to draw trumps first, you will have to think about whether to ruff high or low in order to set up the suit. And another concern will be, do you have enough entries to do that? So we're going to look at a few examples of this. And just before we get onto that, I just want to remind you of likely distributions, because that's very relevant when you're setting up a suit. So if you have, say, 5 missing cards in a suit, the most likely distribution is a 3-2 distribution in the opponent's hand, 68%. If you're missing 6 cards, then 4-2 is the most likely distribution, with a 3-3 being next most likely. Or if you're missing 7 cards, they're most likely to be divided 4-3, which is 62%. And although it's nice to be able to cater to all possible distributions, it's a good idea to start off at least being able to cater to the most likely distributions. And in particular, if there are 6 missing cards, the likelihood is that they will be 3-3 or 4-2, and the probability of that is about 84%, but it'll be one of those. You add those two probabilities together. So let's look at a few examples. And here's one where you've got a diamond suit. Now, this is not the trump suit. This is another suit you've got. And you have 8 cards in the suit. You've got a 6-2 distribution. And very often when you've got a suit like that, you would like to be able to set up that suit by ruffing. And what you need to think about is, how many cards do you have in that suit, which is 8. So the opponents have 5 cards, and those will normally be divided 3-2. So if you want to establish this suit, how many times will you need to ruff? And do you expect to be able to ruff low, or might you have to ruff high? Okay, so I'm going to launch a poll on that in a moment. And the answer will be, how many times do you think you'd need to ruff with a 3-2 distribution in diamonds? And will you be able to ruff that low, or might you need to ruff high? So let me launch the first question. How many times will you need to ruff? And do you expect to have to ruff high or low? Okay, I'm going to end the poll there and share the results with you. And the majority here have said once, and it may need to be a high trump, but you've got a number of other responses for twice, all other responses, in fact. So let's switch back to the screen and see what we think. Well, if the missing cards are divided 3-2, which is the more likely distribution, can you see that you actually just have one loser there? So the answer to the question, how many times will you have to ruff in order to establish a suit, is once. Okay, if they are divided 3-2, you can play the ace king, then ruff a low diamond, and if you're able to ruff that, now the suit is established. So the answer is you will be able to establish that suit with a 3-2 distribution by ruffing once, but that ruff may need to be high. On a layout like this, you would have to ruff high unless you had already drawn trumps, or you would risk being over-ruffed. Okay, you all got that. Let's try another distribution. This time you've got 5-2 distribution, and that means that the most likely distribution of the opponent's 6 cards is 4-2. If we want to try and establish this suit, how many times will we have to ruff this diamond suit? And will we have to ruff high, or can we ruff low? And what you need to think about is the likely distribution of the opponent's diamonds as being 4-2. So to cater to 4-2 break, the second poll question is the same as the first one. It's how many times will you expect to have to ruff this suit in order to establish it, and will you have to ruff high or low? So let me launch a second poll. And it's the same question, same answers as last time. Okay, let me share the results with you. And most of you this time have said twice, both high, and a variety of other responses, once or twice both low, or twice one low, the second one high. So let's switch back to it and see what we think, and let's put up a sort of diagram to represent the missing cards. If they are divided 4-2 like this, can you see that to establish this suit without losing a trick, you will have to ruff twice? And if the distribution is 4-2, that means that both ruffs will have to be high, because someone, assuming they have a 2-card suit, you may have to ruff twice, and it may need to be high. So I agree with those of you who said it may take 2 ruffs, and they both might need to be high. Now, you might be more lucky on this hand, because what you might get instead is a 3-3 distribution. That's less likely, but if you do get a 3-3 distribution, then you can establish the suit by just ruffing once. Okay, you can play the ace king, and when you play the 3rd card, you'll be able to ruff it, and the suit will become established. And in fact, that ruff could be low. So if you're lucky to get a 3-3 distribution, then you could establish the suit by just ruffing once with a low ruff. But more often than not, it'd be 4-2 rather than 3-3, and that would mean 2 ruffs, and they both have to be high. Do interrupt me if you have any questions about this, and I do hope you're all following this. Let's try one other one. Imagine you've got a 5-1 distribution with the ace king there. Now, if you've got 6 cards in the suit, you should try to cater to at least the most likely distribution, which is 4-3. So if the missing cards are divided 4-3, how many times will you need to ruff in order to establish this suit? And are those ruffs going to be high or low? So have another little think about it, and I'm going to launch another poll on this subject. A little while to think about it. And this time, most of you have said twice, one low and the second one high, 66%. Some people said twice, both high. Once, it may need to be a high trump, or twice, both low. So quite a bit of variety there. And let's see what we think. Well, let's imagine a 4-3 distribution. And if they are divided 4-3, can you see that you will need to ruff twice in order to establish the suit? And you're going to ruff twice, but the cards you will be able to ruff with will depend on exactly how you play this. So if you start off by just cashing one honor, say the ace, and then ruffing twice, if you get that 4-3 distribution, both ruffs can be low, okay? But if you decide to cash the ace king first, then the third card you played can be ruffed low, but the fourth one might have to ruffed high. So the superior way to play this, if you're going to try to establish a suit by ruffing, and we'll look at some examples of this in a minute, is actually just to cash one honor and then try to ruff low twice. Okay, we're going to look at some hands involving putting this into practice. So let me end that and I'll switch to my other screen. And let's start off looking at this hand here. Again, do interrupt me if you've got any questions. You open this one 3 hearts, a preemptive 3 hearts. There's a 3 spade overcall, and your partner takes you to 4 hearts. And the opponents lead the king of spades. And let's try and make a plan on this. Well, that's a very nice dummy, isn't it, with all the aces. And let's try and see what we're going to do here. We've got a fantastic fit in hearts. We've got an 11-card heart fit, so we're not going to lose any hearts. But we do have, I think, 2 potential spade losers, no diamond losers, and no club losers. So it looks like we're in danger of losing these 2 spade tricks here, but there is a possibility here of establishing the club suit. And we have got 7 clubs here. So that means we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That means the opponents have got 6 cards. And if they were divided 3-3, we might actually be able to establish a suit by just ruffing once. Now, on this hand, because we've got such good trumps, we can afford to draw trumps before we do any of that. So let's win the first trick and let's play a round of trumps. Actually, everyone follows to that round, so that's all the trumps gone. And now we're going to turn our attention to clubs. And our goal here is to try to establish some tricks in clubs by ruffing the suit. So we're going to play the king first, winning in the short hand, cross over to the ace, that's 8 clubs gone, and then we're going to play another club and we're going to ruff that. Now, at this point, if West were to follow, that would be it. We would have established a suit by ruffing once, and our 2 clubs would be good, and we'd be able to discard spades on those. But on this particular layout, West discards, so there's still a high club out. So I can't establish both clubs, but I can still establish 1 club. So what I'm going to do is go back to dummy, play another club, which I'm going to ruff again. And now I can cross back to dummy and I can cash the 7 of clubs. It was a lot of work, but I'm able to discard a spade on that and we'll now make an extra trick there. After this, I think I'll just go back to my hand. At the end, it's good tactics to be play off all your trumps from your hand, and the opponents may not know what to hang on to there. And but if they keep the right thing, they will make a spade at the end. So this was a hand that involved ruffing the clubs in order to establish the tricks. And we were able to draw trumps here because we had so many trumps, but there are other hands coming up that I will demonstrate where you can't really do that. So let's have a look at another one. And here's one where you open 1 spade. There's a double here. Your partner passes, 2 club bid, and you now bid 2 hearts. West goes on though with 3 clubs, pass, pass. And are you going to let them play it in 3 clubs? Maybe with this really good distribution, you bid again. So by bidding spades and then bidding hearts twice, you are definitely sort of saying you've got at least 5-5 in each suit. So you bid 3 hearts and your partner puts you back into 3 spades. So you're ending in 3 spades there, and the opponents lead a club. And let's try and make a plan on this hand. Well, if we try and work out our losers, I think I'm not going to lose any spades. We'll come back to hearts in a moment. but I've got to lose 2 diamonds and 1 club. So three tricks I'm definitely going to lose. What you want to do on this hand is see if you can avoid any heart losers. And what you're going to try to do is establish the heart suit by ruffing it. Okay, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 7 hearts. That means the opponents have got 6, and they are likely to be divided 4-2. So if they are divided 4-2, I've got the same question as before. How many times will you have to ruff the hearts? And what will you ruff with? Will you be able to ruff low, or will you possibly need to ruff high? And I've got the same poll question as before, which is the same question. How many times will you need to ruff the hearts in order to establish a suit? And do you expect to ruff high or low? Okay, let me share the results with you. And most of you have gone for twice, both high, 60%, but 30% said twice, 1 low and the second one high, and 10% said once, and it may need to be a high trump. So let's see what we think. Well, what you've got to do is imagine the heart distribution you might face. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Imagine there's a 4-2 distribution. And if there is a 4-2 distribution, can you see you will need to ruff twice? And also because if one person does have only 2 hearts, though both of those ruffs may need to be high. So fortunately, looks like I should be able to do that because I've got 2 high trump in dummy. And that's what I'm going to do on this hand. I'm going to try and establish the heart suit by ruffing it twice. So let's suppose they win the first club, play another club, which I ruff. And I'm not going to draw trumps here because my plan in the back of my mind is to ruff 2 hearts. So I'm going to cash the ace and king. Fingers crossed I get away with that. I don't have a really bad break. And then I'm going to play another heart and I'm going to ruff this high. And indeed, East discards. So I did get that 4-2 break. But I still want to, the suit's not established yet. I still want to ruff 1 more heart. So I need to come back to my hand, perhaps with a club ruff, and then play another heart, which again, I'm going to ruff high with the jack. Okay, at this point, I've managed to do those ruffs. If I bring up the 4 hands, now all I hope for is that the trumps divide evenly and I can draw the remaining trumps, and finally my 8 of hearts is a trick. So it was again a lot of work, but I managed to make a trick there. I'm going to lose the last 2 tricks, but I should be able to make 10 tricks on this one. And it was done by ruffing 2 hearts before you drew trump, and it established the fifth heart as a good trick. Any comments on that? Let's try another one. Here we get to a similar contract. Again, it's gone 1 spade, double, pass, 2 clubs, 2 hearts, 3 clubs, pass, 3 hearts. Again, my partner's put me back into my first suit. And the opponents here start by leading a club. And this is quite similar to the last one, but it's a little bit different. The question again is, again, I've got these 3 losers in the minor suit. And again, I want to avoid losing any hearts here. I've got 7 hearts again, but this time I've got the ace, king, queen. And the question is, how many times will I have to ruff the hearts in order to set up the suit? And what do I need to ruff with? Is it going to be high or low? So have a little think. And again, I'm going to launch the same question for you. Okay, let me share the results with you. And this time, most of you have said, gone 44% have said once it may need to be a high trump. And there are other votes for all the others, including two ruffs. So let's have a look at that again. Sorry, I've gone to the wrong screen there. Let's switch back and sorry, is that the right one? Yeah, it's this one. Yeah. So let's have a think about that. Well, again, we are missing 6 hearts here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the most likely distribution is the 4-2 distribution. And if they are divided 4-2, can you see that we can establish the suit by ruffing once? Because our hearts are stronger, we've got the ace, king, queen, we only need to ruff once. And that ruff, to guard against a 4-2 distribution, should be high. So on this hand, my plan here is to establish the hearts by ruffing once. Now, if I was really lucky on this hand, the hearts would divide evenly. 1, 2, 3, they would divide 3, 3. And in that case, you could just take all 5 tricks. But you should really be playing this to cater for the 3-3 distribution or the 4-2 distribution. And because the 4-2 is more likely, we expect to have to ruff once. So that's what we're going to do. We're planning to ruff only once to set up the heart suit. And it's going to be with a high trump. Unfortunately, I've got the queen of spades in dummy. So that's what I'm going to plan to ruff with. So if they try to cash 2 clubs, I will ruff the first round. And you could play the heart straight away, the ace, king, and then ruff. But here, because I'm only planning to ruff once, it's not a bad idea to draw 2 rounds of trump first. So I'm going to play the ace and then the king. And now there's just 1 high trump out. Sorry, 1 trump left. But now I'm going to turn my attention to hearts. I'm going to play the ace and the king. And now I'm in good shape because everyone's followed to 2 rounds. So I can play a low heart, which I'm going to ruff with a high trump. Okay. And that has succeeded. And now the hearts are established. I'll just bring up the hands to show you that the hearts are established because you've got the queen 8 and there's just the jack out. Now all I need to do is draw the last trump. So I will get back to my hand with a club ruff and draw that last trump. And now I can take my last 2 hearts as well. My queen and my 8 is good. And again, I can make 10 tricks on that one. I'll lose the last 2, but I should be able to make 10 tricks on that one by ruffing a heart with a high trump there. Any comments on that? I hope you can see it's a mistake to try to cash the ace, king, queen first, because it would get ruffed unless you ruffed your queen high. Let's try one more. And again, the bidding is very similar on this one. You open 1 spade and then bid hearts twice, and your partner puts you back into spades. And this time they lead the ace of diamonds. And let's stop to work out a plan on this hand. Well, if we look at the trump suit, we're probably going to lose 1 trick, hopefully no more than 1 trick. In diamonds, we've got 1 trick to lose there, and in clubs, we're going to lose a trick. So we've got those 3 tricks to lose. What we want to do on this hand is try to set up the heart tricks by ruffing. We want to set up the heart suit by ruffing. And again, I've got the same question for you. How many times will you have to ruff in order to establish that suit? And what are you going to ruff with? You can try to ruff high or low. So this time we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. That means the opponents have got 7. And I'd like you to try to cater to the 4-3 break. So imagine the opponent's cards are divided 4-3. The opponent's hearts are divided 4-3. How many times will you have to ruff in order to establish the hearts? And are you going to try to ruff high or low? So here's the last poll of the evening. How many times will you need to ruff the hearts? And do you expect to ruff high or low? And this is to assuming there's a 4-3 distribution of the missing hearts. What's with you? And this time, most of you have said twice, one low and the second one high. And again, there are a variety of other responses. Well, let's have a look at this. One problem on this hand is I don't have very many high trumps in dummy. I've just got the ace, okay? So I've just got the ace and 2 low trumps. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, someone has got, let's assume someone's got 4 hearts and someone's got 3 hearts. If that is the case, I will need to ruff twice in order to set up this suit, because someone's got a 4-card suit. But if I play just the ace and then start ruffing, I should be able to ruff both of those with low trumps. In fact, I can't afford to ruff high because it would really cost a trick. I've got just the ace king, and I need those to draw the opponent's trumps. So this is how I'm going to play this one. If they carry on with another diamond, I'll ruff that one, and I'm going to play the ace of hearts, and then I'm going to lead another heart, the first ruff, which I'm going to ruff low. Okay, if I can get away with that, I now need to come back to my hand, perhaps with a diamond ruff, and play another heart, which I'm going to ruff low. So if I've been able to do that, the suit is now established, and I've been able to establish it by ruffing twice with low trumps. So now I've done that. Now I'm going to try to draw trumps. So I'll cash the ace, maybe come back to the ace of clubs and cash another high trump. And if everyone follows, there's just one high trump out. It's a jack, and I'm just going to leave it because my hearts are now established. And I'm going to play my king. When I play the 9, West can ruff if they wish. It's always going to make a trick there. They've ruffed my winner. And they'll be able to cash a club, but I've still got a trump. And again, I can make 10 tricks on this hand. So what I did here was I cashed 1 heart and then ruffed 2 hearts low. What a lot of people do on a hand like this is they try to cash the ace and king of hearts first. And if you do that, it is not so successful. If your goal is to establish the hearts, this is what would happen. So this is the same hand played the same way, except you cash the ace, and a lot of people try to cash the king here. Okay, now you're able to do that, but now it's harder for you to ruff the hearts. When you play a heart now, you can ruff the first one. Let's suppose you come back to your hand just as before, and if you now try to ruff another heart, you will fail if you try and ruff low, because you played an extra round of hearts. If you try to ruff this one low, as we did before, you're in danger of an over ruff there, and then you can get back in with a club, and your heart is established. Sorry, let me press mute everyone. Someone's got a lot of noise going on. So you can now try to draw trumps, but it's not going to work so well here. In fact, you're going to, the opponents can get in and play another club here. You can ruff that, and they will still have a trump. And you would only make 8 tricks there, whereas played the other way, you can make 10 tricks. So this is an important pattern to look out for. You've got a singleton opposite the ace king. Generally, it's better if your goal is to try to establish that suit, just to cash 1 honor and then start ruffing and try to establish the suit. Okay, so very few people got that last one right, but the answer is that you can try to establish a suit by ruffing twice, but and both ruffs could be low as long as the hearts are divided 4-3, as they are in this scenario. So that was the end of the lesson. Does anyone have any comments or questions about it?
Tony, I have, Barbara.
Yeah.
Could you put up your first slide with the percentages, please?
Yes. This one, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So 5 is 3-2.
The way, I mean, I know some of these percentages, but the way to remember it is if you're missing an odd number of cards, the most likely distribution is that they're divided as evenly as possible, 3-2 or 4-3 in this case. But if you're missing an even number of cards, the likelihood is they're not divided evenly. 4-2 here is the most likely distribution rather than the 3-3 one.
Thank you.
So, you know, at the very least, try to cater to the most likely distributions. And obviously, if you could cater to more extreme distributions, then so much the better, but that's much harder. But at least try to deal with what's most likely. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so I hope you found that interesting. We'll start the game at 7:30.